Bu açılacak ama ben yukarıdan açıp kapatacağım. Sadece siz açın, şöyle olduğunu görün, açın, ben zaten göreceğim.
To say two things before we start. Kosh Frodo. Oliver. A little bit of advice from Gandalf that when you're coming to the end of the year and your examinations loom, you must, oh hello, you must work hard on your revision, you know, you mustn't go out and play, because if you don't really take the examinations seriously, you know what will happen. You shall not pass!
Shall we? Welcome to our talk with Sir Ian McKellen, who's been in Istanbul for 2 days and very busy talking to people and not really exploring the city. But the way we're gonna do this today is we're gonna have a talk for a while, and then we'll also take questions from the audience. So, you know, think about your questions already. You're here as a part of the film festival, so even though you were first known as a stage actor and you've done incredible work on stage, today I'd like to talk to you more about your film work. And you've done many films and television starting from the 60s, but it seems like Richard III, which we're also showing at the festival here, seems to be sort of your defining moment in cinema, where you also wrote the script and you were one of the producers. So let's start talking about Richard III, and then we'll move on to your bigger roles where apparently everyone here knows you from.
Has anybody seen my film of Richard III? Well, you should do. It's a very good film, and how could it not be? Because it's a very good play that Shakespeare wrote. I'd been doing it at the National Theatre of Great Britain, on stage there and on tour. We didn't come to Turkey, alas, but we went all over Europe and to the United States. And we set this old play and its old story about a dictator and a man who was determined to take power to himself, even if it meant killing the relatives that stood between him and the throne, and set it in a modern time, in the 1930s, at a time when much of Europe was turning fascist, and strong leaders were, like Hitler, Mussolini, Franco, were in the ascendant, and imagined what it would be like if such a person had taken over the government of the United Kingdom. So it was a sort of nightmare that we knew had never happened, but that might have happened. And I think that's the essence of Shakespeare's storytelling in that play. And I said to the director, do you think this would make a good film, our version? And he said, yes, it probably would. I said, well, can we film it? And he said, well, not unless there's a screenplay. It hadn't occurred to me that you had to write a screenplay of Shakespeare. Hadn't he already written the play? But you have to collapse it down and cut it and shape it for the cinema. And I did that. I'd never done it before. And our director approved, but said he couldn't possibly direct this film because he was busy running the National Theatre. So I then spent 2 years persuading people to give us the money to make the film, and finding a director, Richard Longcren, to work on it with me and end up directing the film. And then I persuaded a number of my friends to be in it, like Robert Downey Jr. and Annette Bening and Dame Maggie Smith. And together we filmed it all in London, all on location, and in a brand new version of the film, all polished by the British Film Institute. We brought it to the festival, who will be showing it tonight, won't we? Yes, I think it's tonight. But you can find it on YouTube, I think, or you can find it, I think, in your library at the Film Institute here. And if you want to know anything about how we made it, you can, on my website, see the book I wrote about the screenplay, how we cut it, why we made the decisions that we did, and some stories about how difficult it was, how easy it was, and what fun it was to make the film. And up to that point, I think I'd thought of myself as a theatre actor. My parents used to take me and my big sister Jean to the theatre, a lot, the live theatre, to see amateur actors and professionals in our hometown in the north of England. And I occasionally came to London to see plays. We didn't really go to the cinema. The cinema wasn't where I discovered acting. And I enjoyed so much watching other actors at work that I thought, how can I find out more? And the way I found out more was by becoming an actor myself. But being a film actor, it was beyond, I couldn't imagine it. I mean, we had actors in the theatre in our hometown, but film actors, where were they? In the ether somewhere in Hollywood, far, far away. But once I'd made Richard III, walking over territory I was familiar with, Shakespeare, suddenly I became a potential film actor. And I'll just tell you a little story about how it progressed, my career in films. Before we made Richard III, I thought I'd better go and find out how to act in films. So I visited a lot of other people's films. I played a very small part with Arnold Schwarzenegger in Last Action Hero. I made my one and only Western, playing a small part. And in John Schlesinger's last film, he was a great English film director who directed Midnight Cowboy, I made a film called Cold Comfort Farm, playing a prototype, really, of Gandalf. In this case, a rather grumpy man who shouted a lot and was a preacher and talked about hell and so on, so on, so on. Richard III came out, and the young director, then known only for Usual Suspects, Bryan Singer, in Hollywood, asked me to go and meet him because he was going to film a novella by Stephen King called Apt Pupil, and he thought I might play the part of the Nazi in disguise who was living in secret in California. That's the basis of the plot, and he'd seen me in a Nazi-like uniform in Richard III, I suppose, and made that connection. And we met over lunch, and almost immediately he said, "Oh, what a pity. You're so much younger than I thought. This guy is, no, he's in his 60s. It's impossible. You can't do it now." So you win some, you lose some, and we became very friendly, talking about this and that. And then halfway through the meal, he said, "Have you seen John Schlesinger's latest film?" I said, "Yes." He said, "Cold Comfort Farm." "Yes," I said, "yes, I've seen it." He said, "Who was the old actor who played the preacher?" You know, the one who played the preacher and was the grumpy old man. I said, "That was me." "Oh," he said, "you can play old, can you?" I said, "Yes, I'm an actor. I can do anything." That's how I got into Apt Pupil. And when we made Apt Pupil, he was going to do the X-Men movies, and he asked me to play Magneto. It's all linked. Anyway, so Richard III was the beginning of my career in such as it's been in the cinema. I think it's rather come to an end, actually. This rather feels like an obituary for... Okay.
Well, I see you're keeping very busy. You're doing a lot of voice work as well. So maybe also talk about your last film that came out, Beauty and the Beast.
Beauty and the Beast? Anybody seen that? Ah, that's more like it, yeah. A musical, Disney film, and this is a remake of the animated version with live action actors, and I play a clock. People say, what's your latest film? I say, Beauty and the Clock. My name is Cogsworth, and I'm a clock, tick-tock. That's the song I wrote for myself. It never got into the movie. Well, you must know about Beauty and the Beast, that it's upset a lot of people. Now, it's directed by an old friend of mine, Bill Condon, who directed me in Gods and Monsters, in which I played an openly gay film director, James Whale. We then went on to make Mr. Holmes, in which I played Sherlock Holmes, aged 90. And he gave me this little part of Cogsworth the Clock in Beauty and the Beast. Well, there are many characters in this lovely story, including the sidekick to the villain of the piece, who, at the end of the film, when everyone is happy and the Beast has come back as the prince and Cogsworth is no longer a clock and reunited with his wife, there's a big dance takes place. And the sidekick of the villain is seen for 3 seconds dancing with another man. This has been thought to be so sensationally wicked that in Alabama, the state of Alabama in the United States, that film is banned because it's promoting homosexuality. 2 men dancing together for 3 seconds. The film is banned in Malaysia. In Russia, Federation of Russia, you may not see that film unless you're 16 years old. People have very odd ideas about human nature, and I don't think any child or adult can be corrupted by the sight of 2 men happily dancing. Do you? No.
I actually almost missed that scene. That's how.
Yes, there you are. You blink and you miss it.
And you're, of course, Gandalf is famous around the world, but that almost didn't happen, right? Because you were talking for another.
Oh, yes, well, oh dear. Yes, Tom Cruise asked to see me to be in his second Mission Impossible, but he wouldn't let me read the script. I think probably because there wasn't one, but there is a problem these days. Actors are not allowed to show the scripts of the movies they're in. Even with Lord of the Rings, I was told I must not show the script to anybody because they mustn't know how the film ended. This was a classic book that had been around for 50 years. I went to meet Tom Cruise. He didn't turn up, but his partner did, and the director, and they asked me to be in Mission Impossible, and I had to turn it down because they simply wouldn't show me a script. That's when Peter Jackson called me up and asked me to play Gandalf, and shortly afterwards Bryan Singer asked me to do X-Men, and we managed to do both of those close together. Meanwhile, Anthony Hopkins, who had taken over the part I'd turned down in Mission Impossible, had to wait and wait and wait for over a year before they actually made Mission Impossible. It kept being delayed and delayed and delayed. And if I'd said yes to doing a script that I hadn't read, I wouldn't have played Gandalf, I wouldn't have played Magneto, and I probably wouldn't be here now. So.
Well, we're happy that didn't work out then.
Yeah. Well, then of course there were problems because people who loved Lord of the Rings were very worried about me playing Gandalf. Gandalf the Gay. I got a few death threats. It's odd, isn't it? It's odd.
Well, he did play a few.
Not anymore. I don't get death threats anymore. No, I get lovely welcomes like that beautiful choir singing the music from Lord of the Rings. Could you hear them? Oh, there you
You played several gay characters in various films, but I'm more interested in you playing in a few films that have been important in the gay movement, like Bent,
Yes.
and the band played on.
Yes.
How did your involvement in those come about?
Well, when aged 49, 49, I actually said to anyone who was interested that I was gay and came out of what we call the closet. It was assumed by some people that I would become a queer artist, you know, that I would stop doing the sort of plays and films that I had been in and dedicate myself to being just a part of myself. And I said, well, no, I can't do that because I find the phenomenon of heterosexuality far too interesting to ignore it. It would mean I couldn't play Macbeth, I couldn't play Hamlet, I couldn't play King Lear, couldn't play Iago. It's all a bit of a nonsense. But I have been in a number of plays and films that were personally important to me and were especially pleasing because perhaps they were just sending a message to any audience who saw them that gay people are as interesting and as ridiculous and as frail and as admirable as everybody else. In other words, you know, we're all human beings. And the first play, the first play I was in of this sort was by a contemporary of William Shakespeare, Christopher Marlowe, who was a gay man, born the same year as Shakespeare, and he wrote a wonderful play called Edward II, which was the first play I think ever written with a gay character at its centre. And it's a cautionary tale because Edward is a young man who has a beautiful young friend, and the authorities of the time don't like his liaison and remove the boyfriend and kill him. And Edward, whose heart has been full of love and contentment, turns into the most dreadful person. He's thwarted in his love, his passions are not allowed to have free rein, and he becomes a tyrant and meets a miserable end. Another play, which we also did as a film, called Bent. I don't know if this has been ever done in Turkey. We think it has, yes. Bent, by the American playwright Martin Sherman, is about the ill treatment of gay people in the labor camps of the Third Reich, the Nazi period in Germany before and during the war, Second World War. They were in the camps along with the Jews and the Gypsies and the communists, people that the state didn't like. They were all locked up and ill-treated. And not much had been known about these people. And Martin wrote the most wonderful play. And the friend who's come with me today, Michael Cashman, a close neighbour and dear friend, now in the House of Lords as a politician. He and I, when he was an actor, were in this play together at the National Theatre in London. So that was a big thing. And then we filmed it. I was too old to play my part, and so I played the uncle of my part, Uncle Freddie. Yes, and my most recent work on TV has actually been a gay part in a sitcom called Vicious, about... it's It's about two old men, I mean, of my age, who've been living together for years and are absolutely horrible to each other. But they're rather heroic because they've lived through good times and bad times, and they've survived as a partnership. And they're absolutely open about their sexuality and at ease with it.
Except to the mother of one.
What?
Except to the mother of
Except to the mother of one of them. You're absolutely right. Yes, I'd forgotten about that. Oh dear, mothers, they don't always get it right, do they? But I'll tell you an occasion when the mother did get it right. A friend of mine, a young friend in the United States, was 14 years old, and when he came in from school, and his mother was waiting for him and said, "Come here, sit down," took him into the kitchen, and then she said, "You are gay." That's how he came out. Well, you know, mothers always know best. Well, or in this case, I think it's the most wonderful way to get rid of the problems of coming out, just to be told what you are. But no, this mother was of another generation and not at ease with it. But I was proud of Vicious because it was broad comedy. It was designed to amuse, but it was on prime-time television. At the end of each episode, the characters went up the stairs to their bedroom. 70-year-old men going to bed on prime-time television. It's in this way, really, that you measure the progress, I think, of society. And it's been very satisfying for me as an actor that I've been able to be part of that sort of storytelling which educates people but entertains them at the same time.
Very entertaining indeed. So you've done sitcoms, you've done voice work, you've done big films, small films. It seems theatre is still the heart of your work. You haven't been classically trained, but you've started acting right out of college, even at college. Can you maybe talk about the different styles of acting? How do you change from one to the other? Because you work a lot in all these very different ways.
Jeepers, that's a big question. Well, I went to a university not unlike this one, in Cambridge in England. There was no drama faculty, but I did a lot of acting along with friends, some of whom became professionals, as I did. And then without going to drama school, I went to join a regional theatre in the north of England and spent 3 years doing different plays in theatre companies outside London. The sort of acting that is in favour in the United Kingdom is the sort of acting that probably you respect and like here, which is it's an actor's job to be believable in the character, not to be too stylized in presentation, but in Hamlet's words to the play actors, speak the speech, I pray you, as I pronounced it to you, trippingly upon the tongue, and that theatre storytelling is holding the mirror up to nature. So don't get too exaggerated, don't get too rhetorical. Well, that's the sort of acting that I've seen a lot of and tried to emulate. In my early years, when I was allowed to play wonderful parts like Edward II, which I mentioned, and Richard II by Shakespeare, and Hamlet, I did these on tour in the United Kingdom for companies that the British Council often took abroad. And we played large theatres. By large, I mean sort of 1,200, 1,500 people, twice as many people or more than here in large theatres. And my job was to be heard, you know. Now, if I'm speaking to you here, I can speak quite quietly, but the trouble is that you can't really hear me, can you? No. So in order that you can, I have to start speaking up, and now you think, why is he talking so loudly? Well, so they can hear is the answer. Oh, look, and I'm doing gestures which I wouldn't do if I were talking to you down here. I'd have my hands in my pockets. So acting is very difficult depending on the size of the theatre that you're in. And as a young actor with a young voice and plenty of energy, it was my pride that I could be heard at the back, where the poor people sat, you know. They would get the performance, and what happened was that the critics who were sitting down here said, Ian McKellen does an awful lot of overacting. And they were right, I did. It's a difficult problem. What to do? And it all began to make sense when I was in a play by Shakespeare called Macbeth. And we did this in Stratford-upon-Avon, where he was born, Shakespeare, in a small theatre with just you and you and you. That's all. You weren't there. It was just a very small audience round a magic circle where the action took place. And we could speak very quietly. We could speak very conversationally. Tomorrow and tomorrow and tomorrow creeps in this petty pace from day to the last syllable of recorded time. And I didn't have to worry about projecting it. I just was inside the words somehow. That was a huge success. Judi Dench, most wonderful actress, was playing Lady Macbeth, and a very good cast around us. We recorded it on TV. You can still see it on video. I think you might enjoy it. It doesn't have any scenery. It's just the words and the actors and close-ups. And I thought, I see, that's what I should be doing. I shouldn't be doing all that shouting anymore. And ever since, I've tried to work in smaller theatres because, frankly, it's easier. And performances can be more compelling. And an audience close to the actors can feel trapped. And we had no interval for our Macbeth. I remember a priest used to sit on two or three occasions, was sitting on the front row. And I met him afterwards. He used to hold out his crucifix to the actors. I said, "What are you doing?" But he said, "I'm just protecting you from all that evil." I don't think he would have done that if he'd been in a large theatre sitting up there or up there, you see. And it was only after I'd done that production of Macbeth that I realised that it might be fun, it might be exciting, it might be illuminating to act for the audience that is closest of all, and that is the camera. Because when you're making a film, the audience, the camera, is right here. It sees things that you don't see in real life. Its expectations of you are very demanding. Your reality has to be total, your belief in yourself and then the character has to be immediate, but fresh, unrehearsed, improvised in the moment. And before then, I think if you see me on the screen, TV or film, you'll see an actor rather at sea. But after Macbeth, it became a bit easier.
And your connection with the audience is not just through the camera or theater, you also have a blog, right? So
a blog.
That's something that you started before they were called blogs.
Yes. You can't remember a time when there was no internet. I still have difficulty with a mobile phone. I never quite sure how to turn it on, and don't call me on it because I never answer it. But I had been introduced to the idea of the internet in 2000 when we started filming Lord of the Rings, and I realized that I could send messages out to the world about our progress and how we were doing, and Peter Jackson, the director, did the same. I've forgotten what I called my little messages, which were quite regular, but they were blogs, and I think I invented blogging, and I just didn't give it the right name. Lord of the Rings has been the most wonderful gift to me. Just standing and hearing that music now, I got quite tearful. And it's not just because of those wonderful plangent notes of Howard Shore. It's because I remember so much about the 8 or 9 years that I was in New Zealand, on and off, filming 6 films with the most wonderful people. Before you die, promise me you'll go to New Zealand. It's a very special place. It's the first country in the world to give women the vote. You wouldn't think that, would you? When I was there, there was a woman head of state, there was a woman prime minister, there was a woman head of justice there. You may not approve, but I do. They care for their sex workers in New Zealand, and there are state brothels. They're very conscious of society and keeping it not under control, but free and easy, really. And they're miles and miles away from anywhere, but they will not have nuclear weapons on their land or on their sea. And the countryside is, to my taste, the most beautiful in the world. It's high mountains, fjords, chasms, hot weather volcanoes, earthquakes. God is still making New Zealand. He's not finished with it. But in the process, there's just the biggest, largest city in the lower island, the southern island, has just been destroyed, the whole city. And there are only 4 million people live there. Quarter of the population of this city. That's the entire countryside. It's empty. It's there, it's waiting for you. And if you're keen on sports, you'll go mad. And you can go and see Hobbiton if you want.
So sponsored by New Zealand Tourism Agency?
I wouldn't mind. Yes, I've been on the stamps in New Zealand.
You've also helped with some of the fundraising after the earthquake, I believe.
I did, yes. It was very pleasing to me. One of the few buildings to have half survived in Christchurch, the city that was destroyed, was a beautiful theatre. And to rebuild it, I did. Yes, I went around the country to raise funds for that.
This is like asking a parent which child is a favorite, but do you have a favorite part of all the roles that you played, theatre or film or TV?
Oh dear. I find the only way I can play a part is by liking him. Or at least understanding him, being empathetic to him. So I end up liking them all, really, or understanding them all, or trying to, anyway.
Well, you can Richard
sorry?
Sorry, you can really like Richard III so much.
Well, yes, that's an interesting point. How could you like Richard III, the man who gets his enemies removed? They vanish in the night. How could you like Iago, the most jealous character in the play, of Othello, who hates the world, hates his wife, hates his boss, hates his colleagues, hates himself? Well, if you're playing these parts, you have to find out why they act as they do. And Richard III, I know why he behaves like he does. His mother hates him. He's physically deformed and his mother says to him, "I've hated you from the moment you were born." Well, no boy hears that and ever recovers from it, I think. So he visits that hatred onto other people. Seems to me simple. Iago isn't getting enough sex from his wife. I think that's his problem. But which is my favorite? Oh dear, I would love to meet Gandalf. I would. I really would. I'd love to find out. When we came to do The Hobbit, I said, "Oh, Peter, can we not tell the audience a bit more about Gandalf? What does he wear when he's asleep? You know, does he wear pajamas?" Oh, what? You do worry about these things, don't you? He sleeps under hedgerows, but it's all in the... He must stink to high heaven. Have you noticed nobody ever washes in Middle-earth? Nobody ever cleans their teeth in Middle-earth. And where does Gandalf keep all his things? He's 7,000 years old. He must have accumulated a lot of things. He just has a little bag. And I had the idea, I said, why don't we make this hat a magic hat? So that when he's going to bed, he just takes it off and he goes into it and out comes a toothbrush. Out comes an orange. Everything he wants is in his hat. Out comes a refrigerator. Why not? But no, they didn't want to wander away from the film too much, the book too much. But here's the thing. Many people say to me, "You were exactly like the Gandalf I'd always imagined." Really? Because if you read the book, the Gandalf described by Tolkien, the author, he has eyebrows that are so long that they go out beyond the brim of his hat. That's the first description of him. He wears big black boots. There are other details that were not in the film at all, because you couldn't on film have eyebrows like that. It would have been ridiculous. And I never got the black boots. I was always asking for them. But what we were doing was making me look like the image of Gandalf in the illustrations to the books by Alan Lee and others who worked on the film. Took 2 days. And to begin with, they gave me the beard that Tolkien describes. It goes below his knees. No, human hair doesn't grow that long. But that's the Gandalf that Tolkien describes. But gradually we cut the beard and the moustache and the eyebrows and the wig until it looked like Alan Lee's version of Gandalf in the books. So when people say, "You look exactly like Gandalf," no, I didn't. I look exactly like Alan Lee's Gandalf, not Tolkien's. Interesting.
It would be nice to have a prequel to The Hobbit that's just about Gandalf.
Oh, yes. Or a series.
There you go.
I suggested that instead of making The Hobbit as a film, it was initially going to be 2 films and then it turned into 3, that they should make it for television. And they should put everything that was in the book on the screen in, 40-minute episodes that could run for a year. And you had every detail. You could do that with Dickens and other writers too, but no, that was not thought to be a good idea.
Which is what they're doing with Game of Thrones, I guess.
Oh, Game of Thrones, yes. Well, that goes on and on and on and on and on and on and on, doesn't it? I've never seen it. I'm not in it, am I? No.
Not that I've seen, but there are many people in there. And you were not in Harry Potter's either. One of the very few British actors.
Well, I very nearly was, you know. They did ring me up and they said, would I be interested in being in Harry Potter films? I think I rather grandly said, no, I've played the real wizard. I know an awful lot of people who are in it, including Mike Gambon, who's the actor who now plays Dumbledore, who's gay, incidentally. Did you know that? Yes. J.K. Rowling announced that Dumbledore is gay. I was asked if Gandalf was gay. I said, no, he's 7,000 years old. He's everything, really. So I'm often approached by little children with their parents who said, oh, he's seen all the Harry Potter films. So I said one day to Michael Gambon, who plays Dumbledore, I said, did you ever get mistaken for me? Oh, he said, all the time. And I said, well, what do you do? He said, oh, I just sign your name. Wizards.
Shall we move on to the questions then?
Oh, yes, yes, yes.
Any questions from the audience?
So can you tell us a little bit about Hyde over here? Big fan of...
I won't be able to hear. Oh, there's a microphone.
Yes.
Oh, brilliant.
Wow. It's a real treat to meet you. I'm from Canada, visiting Istanbul, and I'd love to hear whatever you have to say about your character, Magneto.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, nobody likes Magneto?
Well,
Okay.
I've told you how he got involved through Brian Singer, who had directed me an apt pupil, and he explained he was going to make these films based on the Marvel Comics storybooks, which have been around for a couple of decades, X-Men. Of course, they're beautifully drawn, and those old comic books are a rare sight for the eyes, but I couldn't quite see the attraction of it all until Brian said, well, the story is about mutants, people who are born different from everybody else, but have special qualities, and whose society is not at ease with, and is suspicious of. And the argument that is going on in those comics, and then later in the films, is between Professor X, Patrick Stewart's part, who believes that mutants, being different, should not exaggerate their differences or even be proud of them, but just accept them and integrate with society as best they can and contribute to society. And Magneto, his friend's point of view, no, we are special, we are mutants, we are superior. We will maybe take over, but we're going to fight for our rights to be ourselves. And that argument is one which seems to me to be at the heart of every civil rights movement, whether it's black people fighting for their rights all over the world, or women sticking up for themselves, or indeed gay people. I personally tend to agree with Professor X, not Magneto. But once I saw that there was an argument going on there, it seemed to be something to celebrate and have fun with. And that Marvel, the comic publishers, say that the demographic of the readership of the comics is young blacks, young Jews, and young gays. People who've all had the finger pointed at them by society and have to decide how they're going to respond to that. But you do feel a bit stupid, to tell you the truth. You put that bloody helmet on. Poor old Hugh Jackman, you know, playing Wolverine, he was at the gym all the time. Eating 3 chickens a day before breakfast, you know. And you look at Magneto in the comics, you know, he's so sturdy. I had a muscle suit made to go underneath my costume. And I would pop in to see Hugh in his caravan, eating away at his protein, and say, you know, why are you bothering doing that? You know, just get a suit like me. But it's thrilling to sort of hold your arms out and make things happen. And in one of the films, I got onto the bridge in San Francisco, beloved city, and detached the bridge from its moorings, the Golden Gate Bridge, and flew it over to the island of Alcatraz to rescue my troops. And they built this bridge, or half of the bridge. I'm just doing this, and we're meant to be sailing along. And the wind's blowing in my hair, and that means I can't have had the helmet on. Anyway, my cloak is about behind me, and I'm going, and the director, not Brian Singer, another director by this time, said, after he's now saying, Ian, more! More! More! Less!
All the way in the back, there's a question in the back row. The translators need the microphone. Mikrofonu ulaştırabilir miyim?
First of all, welcome to Turkey. It's wonderful to see you. And
Thank you.
as someone who loves acting and who is in the English Theatre Club at my high school, I would like to ask you, what would you recommend for someone who loves acting, who wants to pursue a career in acting, maybe abroad, maybe in London, but is not sure if I can have a future? I'm kind of afraid of the outcomes that may come if I can have a living out of it.
Well, you've probably answered your own question, haven't you?
Yeah.
If you're worried, don't do it. Go on going to the theatre, go on acting with amateur companies. Enjoy the theatre, of course, but the commitment that you have to make and the preparation that you will need for that moment when some luck might come your way is all-absorbing and is not for the faint-hearted, I think. However, that aside, if you want to get better as an actor, you must go on acting. Act all the time. And it's possible to do that. You can act with amateur companies, you can act with college societies, and you could even make films on your phone. Everyone can make a film for nothing. You can learn how to act. You can learn a speech and say it to the camera, play it back, think that's not right, do it again. Lots of ways in which you can improve, and go and see other people act. You can learn a lot by seeing someone act badly or act well. In fact, you would learn more from the person who's acting badly because you can relate to that than to the magical person who's giving a poor performance and you can't work out how it's done. That's so that would be my advice. Yeah. Go on acting as much as you can.
Hello, thanks for visiting Istanbul.
Thank you.
Thanks for visiting Istanbul. If you had a blank check for another Shakespeare movie, which one would you pick and which character would you play?
Oh dear. Well, it's odd that Shakespeare can be cinematic. How can it be? I mean, he was writing plays 300 or 400 years before the invention of the cinema. And yet his method of storytelling can suit. I'm doing this because it's cut, you see. At the end of a Shakespeare scene, there often is the equivalent of a cut in the cinema. One scene immediately follows the next. And a lot of plays written since Shakespeare are not of that sort at all. A curtain comes down, scenery is changed, a curtain goes up, and the impetus of the storytelling is diminished. But in film, of course, it keeps going forward. So you would think it difficult, wouldn't you, that at the height of each of his plays, often the action stops and the character is left alone on the stage to say with Hamlet, to be or not to be, that is the question. Whether it is nobler in the mind to suffer the slings and arrows of outrageous fortune and so on and so on. So on. And he's talking to us, to you, not to the other characters. He's expecting you to almost shout out the answer to his questions. How would that work in a film? Laurence Olivier made a famous film of Hamlet, and he doesn't say those soliloquies, those speeches to the audience. They're all going on in his mind. Doesn't really work, I don't think. When Kenneth Branagh was in Much Ado About Nothing, Benedict, the comic character, has speeches to the audience. Hilariously funny. And Branagh didn't trust the possibility of speaking directly to the camera and spoke to his fingernails, to his heels, to the air, but never straight into the camera. But he learnt his mistake because when he made his Hamlet, he talks directly to the audience. And when I did Richard III, I was determined to speak directly into the camera. So it was almost as if Shakespeare rather daringly had invented possibilities that nobody else had put into practice. Well, which film would I like to make? Well, I love Henry IV, Part 1 and 2. That might sound very boring to you, but the point about those plays is that you see the whole of society. Not just the king, not just the prince, the heir apparent, not just the courtiers around him, not just high society, but the people in the bars, people falling over dead drunk, the soldiers, the foot soldiers, the people who have to carry the weight of the decisions made by the bosses. And you see the whole of society, old people, young people, women, men, children, dying people. And I think that could be very cinematic. Well, I'm not going to do it. It's too big a job.
Mikrofonu.
Hi. So I had two questions. One is really
You can
short.
only have one question.
Okay, I will ask you one. So, I mean, when you came out publicly in around 1990 or 1988, when I was born, apparently, so how did that affect your acting, the style of your acting? I mean, did you feel that change? I mean, because from, I think, 1960s and 70s, there were a lot of gay actors who they felt at home at theater or on the screen because they could kind of play what they wanted, but coming out as gay, I think that should change a lot in your acting.
Well, my life as a gay man has its ups and its downs, but before I came out, I suppose, like every other gay person, I was worried what other people's reaction would be if they knew that I was gay. And if I thought about it at all, I thought, will they allow me to play Romeo when I don't really fancy Juliet, but rather Mercutio? And all the time I was playing Romeo, I was worrying, would I be caught out, you know? Because I hadn't declared myself at that point. I wasn't honest. Now, the gay politician will say the same thing. I can't come out. I can't tell my constituents I'm gay. They won't vote for me next time. The teacher, maybe in this university, will say, I can't come out to my students. They won't respect me anymore. The priest might say, I can't come out. What will other people think? But what actually happens is that other people respect honesty and they know where they are with you. And they like you more than they did before. The first member of parliament in my country to come out and say he was gay increased his majority at the next election. When my friend Keegan Hurst, rugby player in the north of England, came out recently, said he was gay, instead of the crowds booing him at his first match, they cheered him. And he's now moved from the small club he's working at, had been working for, to a much larger club, because he's so popular. My film career took off the minute I came out. That's the happy message I can give all you gay people. Come out of the closet. Life's going to be better. I never met... I never met a gay person, male or female, who regretted coming out. It's always better. Might be a few bumps on the way, a few death threats in my case, a few frowns from the family, a few difficulties. But once those are overcome, it all gets much, much better. Is that an answer to your question? I'm not quite sure that it is. It is, okay. Thank you.
Fourth row.
First of all, I want to say that it's a really big honor to see you here.
Thank you.
Here in our country. So thank you for coming.
Thank you.
And my question is, while you were filming Lord of the Rings trilogy, which part did you impress most, you loved, except You Shall Not Pass part?
I'll just tell you a story about You Shall Not Pass. I wasn't on a bridge at Khazad-dûm. That wasn't me. It's a little digital figure made in the computer. So when I was filming that particular moment, I was in a studio. There was nothing there except a line on the floor that I could walk along, and a yellow tennis ball on top of a pole, and that was the Balrog. And I said to Peter Jackson, I said, what does this Balrog look like? He said, we haven't decided yet. But it's going to have lots of fire inside. It's going to be very frightening, very big. So lots of voice. Just talk to the tennis ball. You shall not bounce! And then they add the scenery later. So that wasn't a magic moment. And incidentally, that is not the words that Tolkien wrote. Tolkien wrote, you cannot pass. I got it wrong. But don't tell anybody that. My favourite moment, and it's true that if you see Gandalf on top of a mountain, I was there. Lifted up by a helicopter. To walk on snow that no other human being had ever trodden on. where Edmund Hillary, one of the first two men to get to the top of Mount Everest, had trained Mount Cook. And the helicopter dumped us there, including the pony. Well, it wasn't a real pony. It was a boyfriend and his girl. This was the boy with the head on, and she was behind doing that. They got into this snow, which was very deep, you know, it was like this. And they started to walk, and I had the joy of looking back and slowly seeing this pony fall over. It's a small shot in the movie, but I was treading into virgin snow, with a precipice on this side, and a mountain ahead, and I thought I was Edmund Hillary. It was just wonderful. And as we often say in Against the Side of a Moment in the script, N-A-R, no acting required. Just be. So it was those moments I loved most. And of the two Gandalfs, Gandalf the Grey was my favourite, which is why I was happy to go back to him for The Hobbit.
Hi. First of all, it's an honor to talk to you, sir.
Thank you.
And I want to ask you, you every day as a famous artist meet many people, many ordinary people, your fans. And from your point of view, they're just another people that you meet. But from their point of view, it's a moment of their life and you are their hero.
Oh.
So how does it, you can change their lives with just few words. And how does it feel to have that power? And how do you use it in your life?
Well, yes, I know. I know because I used to stand outside stage doors as a little boy with my book and ask the actors for their autograph. I still got the book. Precious. It's these bloody selfies that are difficult. You know, can I have a quick photograph? There is no such thing as a quick photograph. They never know how to do it. They're shaking. It is, I mean, often I'm being photographed with someone, I put my arm on their shoulder and they are shaking. You're right, it is a big moment for them. Oh dear. I wonder what the Queen thinks. The Queen, I mean, imagine that. Well, people must be shaking when they meet the Queen, and she must think, what is wrong with everyone? Well, it's lovely to meet the children. I mean, you know, tots. Little things. Are you Gandalf? Well, no. And I explain to them I pretend to be Gandalf. Well, they understand that concept. Children understand what Shakespeare said. All the world's a stage. Bang, you're dead. You know, they play. And so for them, I'm an old man who plays. And those are the people I like most to meet. But, yeah. Yeah, okay.
Welcome again.
Thank you.
Welcome to Istanbul. I'm one of the X-Men fans also, but I see in here there are not too many X-Men fans. Logan mentioned as the last X-Men series, and I really would like to see Magneto in the last X-Men series movie. But I couldn't hear Magneto word or Magneto not mentioned, even not mentioned in the movie, and I really want to know why. And I really want to see the Xavier and Magneto and Logan Wolverine at the last movie, and these characters deserve that.
they make these movies. They make these movies without me. I was on a chat show with Hugh and Patrick Stewart the other day, and I was asked why I wasn't in Logan. And I said, you know, when you get to my age, you don't want to get caught up with these tired old franchises that Hugh and Patrick were in. I don't know. I think perhaps I'm just thought to be too old. And there is a younger Magneto now, isn't there? Fassbender. But why does he take my part? You know, he gets lots of other work. But you're unlucky. That's it. They've finished. He said, Hugh has said no more. But write them a letter. Get your friends to you know, if they feel there's money in it, they might make it, but not with me, I don't think.
No.
Right. Yeah.
No.
Hi.
Hello. Sorry.
Having worked in Hobbit and Lord of the Rings, which are green screen and CGI heavily productions, and especially after Beauty and the Beast, which you did voice acting, what are your thoughts on the lack of acknowledgement awarding authorities has on CGI and voice actors?
I didn't really understand that. It's my hearing. Go on. Could you pick that up?
I think
Repeat the question.
Maybe, yeah, repeat.
After working at Lord of the Rings and Hobbit,
Yes.
which are green screen and CGI heavy productions, and especially after Beauty and the Beast, which you did in voice work, what are your thoughts on the lack of acknowledgement of that award authorities has towards voice actors and CGI actors?
Oh, I see. The lack of recognition in this
Acknowledgement,
country.
recognition, no, overall,
Oh,
like
no.
the Oscars, you know, the voice acting and...
Well, you know, when you're in these films, you know you're in them with everybody else, and they're all doing their job. And I'm not really much in favour of giving prizes to actors or to directors or anything else. If it's acknowledgement of that sort that you're referring to, I don't know. I don't know what else to say, really.
Okay.
Okay, that'll do. Thank you.
Mikrofon.
Go on. Yes.
I think
Önde mikrofonu verdik yalnız.
I think that's me. Well, here I am. Okay, what are your favorite movies, except Lord of the Rings, of course?
Well, I've got a special affection for Richard III, if I were talking about my films, because of my involvement in it at every level. A film I can watch over and over again and discovered when I was quite young is a French film, Les Vacances de Monsieur Hulot, with Jacques Tati, who is a stage comedian, and he directs these films, and they're mostly silent. And there is a laugh in every frame, it seems, of those films, and a humanity. And interestingly, he worked with mainly non-actors, I mean, amateur actors, who are all superb. So, Les Vacances de Monsieur Hulot, I do recommend strongly.
Okay. 2 days ago, you were in Zorlu PSM, and your speech, the part of your speech that you said as an open gay man was not interpreted by the interpreter. Do you know about this? I don't know.
Yes, I do.
What do you think about it? What do you feel about it? And other than that, last summer, Zorlu PSM was supposed to host Boston Gay Men's Chorus in the holy month of Ramadan, I guess, and they canceled it in a last 2 days or something before the concert, and our school had to host them instead. our school's LGBTY club
Yeah.
hosted them or did this organization. Did you know about this?
I did not know about it, and I've only just heard about it since I got here, about that unfortunate change of plans that they made. I don't know what the motives were for it, and so I can't really comment on that. I think people have said I should not have been in that building because of the policy over that particular issue. Well, it wasn't my responsibility where I was going to be, so I'll accept myself from that. But it was a very happy opening ceremony, and I was introduced as a man who'd an activist who'd worked for gay rights. That was clearly translated because I heard it. When the translation was reversed, and it was my English being translated into Turkish. Apparently, when I said I am an openly gay man and therefore proud to be an internationalist, that was the phrase, it came out in translation as I am proud to be an internationalist. And there was a bit of booing, because clearly people had understood there had been a crucial omission. The translator, who's a very eminent one, was challenged and said he hadn't been supplied with proper hearing equipment and he hadn't heard everything that was said. And it's true that in other people's speeches there were omissions of an uncontroversial nature. So I gather he said sorry, but that was the mistake. Other people thought it was more sinister. Well, let's talk about it. I mean, let's have it out in the open, because I mean, gay people do get wiped out. They do get omitted. They do get neglected.
It's a very important issue in Turkey, because in these days we're facing lots of censorship, and a very huge population is facing censorship, and LGBTY community is especially facing censorship. So it's very important for us to be, for us to host you here in Turkey, and even such an organization can censor you. You're like the most famous gay person in the world. So, I mean.
Well, look. If I am agreeing with you, I'm agreeing with you, but I'm saying, even if we accept that the man made a mistake and that it was not sinister.
Do you think it's a mistake?
Just let me finish. Okay. If he says it was a mistake, we can accept that, but we must still talk about it and say it would be very likely that it was not a mistake, because we've known this to happen in other occasions. So it's right that it should be brought up. It's right it should be talked about, whether the guy made a mistake or he didn't. That's my view, and I know exactly what you're talking about when you say that gay people are ill-treated in any manner of ways. And so, yeah, I'm all for writing to the newspapers about it and camping outside the president's palace and complaining. But you'll notice that in every public appearance I've made since, including this afternoon, there has been no censorship whatsoever, and that the fact that I'm an openly gay man has been well received and well publicised on television, on radio, and in the newspapers. So.
Do you find it easy to memorize your lines? And have you ever forgotten your lines on stage?
Do I find it easy to memorize lines? Well, easier than perhaps you would find it, because I don't just learn the lines in parrot fashion. In learning them, I think what is behind the lines, why the line's written in that particular way. And so it's the lines become a complex of thoughts and emotions as well as words. But it is true, the older you get, the more difficult it gets.
We have two last questions, so one from this side and then we'll take one from the back.
I want to ask you, if you played your cinema character but in theater, how would it be? I mean, would it be different? I mean, is there any difference between playing in theater and playing in cinema?
Yes, there is a difference, and I tried to explain it earlier on with that production of Macbeth with an audience very close, and the cinema closest audience of all. But there was a musical, you know, of Lord of the Rings, and I went to see it in London. And everyone said, how on earth are they going to do Lord of the Rings in 3 hours? It's 9 hours on the cinema, and it's a lifetime reading the book. Well, this is why. This is the difference, or a difference between theatre and cinema. In cinema, everything's literal. Not enough to talk about something, you have to see it. So Gandalf, at the beginning, has his troops ready, he said, we will go to Moria. Dee, dee, dee, dee, dee, and off they go. And the camera goes slowly by Gandalf, and then by Aragorn, and then the hobbits. They go, and they go, and they go, and they go, and they go, and then they finally leave the village and out in the countryside. The music's swelling, and the birds are flying, and the eagles, and the clouds, and the moon, and the sun. On and on they go, and then the weather changes, and they're still walking. And the music's still swaying. You hear them on and on and on and on and on and on. And then about 15 minutes later, Gandalf says, Moria. Now, in the theatre, what happens is Gandalf says, follow me to Moria. Moria.
Son bir soru. İki eli havada biri var. Şurada.
From Lord of Rings, is my question is, do you know why Peter Jackson didn't allow Tom Bombadil in Lord of Rings movie? I'm really wondering to hear that from you.
I know. Everybody wants to know that, I know. Time. You have to cut the story down. Because for the reason I've just been explaining. Because in cinema, you have to show everything. So it takes a long time to do a simple thing. It's simply that. And I missed him, a wonderful character. And right at the start of the story, it would, I think, have interrupted the flow and just to the point when you really want to get the story going. I think that was the reason. Nothing sinister.
It was really disappointing to fans not to see him.
Yes, I know. I know.
So maybe a Gandalf prequel and a Bombadil film.
Well, very good, yes. Okay.
Thank you for all the questions. We started off with Shakespeare and Richard III. I think you want to close off with another Shakespeare.
I'm still thinking about your question and your concerns, and I hope you think, and the rest, that I'm extremely sympathetic to your point of view. And this morning, Michael Cashman and I were meeting with LGBT groups who mentioned the point, but were happy to go on and talk about things where they felt they could really make a difference. Look, just a little present. You have been so sweet and kind and welcoming, and I shall not forget today. But the present I'll give you is some words of Shakespeare's, which you perhaps don't know, because they come from a play which he contributed to, but did not write in its entirety, called Sir Thomas More. And Thomas More was a 16th century politician who, as a young man, as a lawyer, is sent out by the authorities, by the king, to put down a riot that is taking place in the centre of London. And the riot is mainly amongst young people who are objecting to the immigrants in London, the strangers, they call them. And they don't like the strangers because they eat odd food and they wear odd clothes and they speak an odd language. They're different. Let's get them back to wherever they came from, send them home. The strangers should be removed, is the cry. Thomas More puts down the riot by appealing to their sense of propriety, and you must not riot, however strong your views. And in this case, he also appeals to their humanity, and you might find it's relevant to some of what we've been talking about today, and what is happening in parts of the world today. That's the way with Shakespeare, he never gets out of date. So, someone in the crowd shouts that the strangers should be removed. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to take off this microphone because rather just my voice and your eardrums, and I don't want anything to get into the way. So, someone says that the strangers should be removed, and Thomas More says, grant them removed! And grant that this your noise hath chipped down all the majesty of England. Imagine that you see the wretched strangers, their babies at their backs, with their poor luggage, plodding to the ports and coasts for transportation, and that you sit as kings in your desires, authority quite silenced by your brawl, and you in rough of your opinions clothes. What had you got? I'll tell you, you have taught how insolence and strong hand should prevail. How order should be quelled, and by this pattern not one of you should live an aged man for other ruffians, as their fancies wrought with self-same hands of reason and of rights would shark on you. And men like ravenous fishes feed on one another. You put down strangers, kill them, cut their throats, and leave the majesty of law and lion to slip him like a hound. Oh, desperate as you are, wash your foul minds with tears, and those same hands that you like rebels lift against the peace, lift up for peace. And your unreverent knees make them your feet to kneel to be forgiven. Say out the king, as he is clement, if the offender mourn should so much come too short of your great trespass as but to banish you. Whither would you go? What country by the nature of your error should give you harbour? Go you to France or France, to any German province, Spain or Portugal, anywhere that not adheres to England? Why, you must needs be strangers. Would you be pleased to find a nation of such barbarous temper that breaking out in hideous violence would not afford you an abode on earth? They detested knives against your throats, spurred you like dogs, and like as if that God owned not nor made not you, nor that the elements are not all appropriate to your comfort, but chartered unto them. What would you think? To be thus used. This is the stranger's case, and this your mountainish inhumanity.
think we're going.